I want you to pause and consider this question for just a moment. Are you someone who believes that accumulating wealth is the fastest path towards a prosperous future? Do you believe that owning a home is part of the American dream? Do you feel that the latter goal is within your grasp, or do you feel priced out of the market? According to my friends over at Lending Tree, they found 40% of Americans say that home prices are too high and they feel priced out of the market when looking to purchase their first or another home. Down payments, they also admit, are trending towards the astronomically unaffordable territory. Another 31% say that rates are too high. And for the purposes of this discussion, 30% of the surveyed participants say that it's hard to qualify for a mortgage, which puts increasingly more importance on the idea of financial and common sense literacy when it comes to the home buying process. And one person who wholeheartedly agrees with this statement is my friend at Parcaut. He's got more than 25 to 30 years in the mortgage industry, and he says he has a passion for helping his clients navigate the complex process of buying a house so that they can realize the American dream. He's the founder and CEO of Lending for Living. He's got a best-selling book entitled Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Homeownership, which provides practical insights on how to build personal wealth through real estate investment. This week, Ed joined me to have an in-depth discussion on what it means to truly have homeowner prosperity. He provided his thoughts on the current state of the housing and mortgage industry in America, where it's been, where it's going, and where it still needs to improve. All in all, I had an in-depth discussion about home ownership, the importance of financial education, and how we can all join in the fight to make sure that others that don't look like us or need a hand up have access to equitable home ownership. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. We began our conversation by Parcaut giving me his definition of what it means to experience homeowner prosperity.
Homeowner prosperity? That's, what's my definition of homeowner prosperity? I would say my definition is so for me, it's all about education. Right. Knowledge is power. You got to know the knowledge to have the power to own. Prosperity would be to be able to own a home, and then the amount of equity you build over time. You build the average in the United States is the average person has about, all right, let's just say California. The average person has about $350,000 in equity in their home that they purchased 5 years ago. That's money that you just by making a payment and staying on top of it, you've earned extra money and you've leveraged so you can actually have prosperity down the road. You can take that money now, buy another house, take it, buy 2 more houses, buy 3 more houses, whatever you want to do, so that you have more homes, more real estate for your family. So the term prosperity to me would be that you're able to do what you want because now you have the equity and other stuff, and you're paying down your mortgage over time to do what you really want in life.
What do you think is the number one lesson you've learned throughout your career in the industry that is time tested and still relevant today?
Well, what I would say the number one lesson, two segments we can talk about, whether you want to get into this industry. First lesson you need to know, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult industry, and it takes a lot to learn what we do. If you're looking at as a client, what you should know about the mortgage industry is it's very easy today lesson to get a loan. It's the easiest time in history. So that's the lesson I want people to understand. I get questions all the time about how much money do I need to put down? 20%? No, you don't need to put down more than 3% or 5%. There's so many ways to get in with down payment assistance. So the lesson you should learn from what I've known in the industry is it's so easy to get into homes these days that you need to get on that process. Now is the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about owning a home and the whole mortgage process, and I know that it's important to you to sort of simplify the whole process. So I'm curious, when people are looking to go into the home buying arena, I'm curious, what sort of checklist should they have when they're looking to buy, purchase, or sell a house?
Well, let's start with buying a home first, then we can talk about selling it next. But if you're looking to buy a home for the first time, checklist they need. The most important thing is to figure out where your credit is. The credit is the most important thing today than any other time in history. Back in 2006, when we had the downturn, 75% of people had a FICO score under 640. Today, only a quarter of the people have a FICO score under 640. Most people have really good credit. So the first step you want to look at is have somebody run your credit with a soft pull. That means it doesn't affect your FICO score, to see what's going on there. That's the first thing you do. That's the most important thing. Then we look at your income. So checklist alone, there's not a lot you need to know. First thing is about your credit, though. And that's one of the reasons I wrote my book, and it breaks it all down in my book, the same thing. If you're going to sell a house, the checklist you need to look at is, let's see what the house is worth and see if it's worth for you to sell your house and move up to another. You got to find out what that reason is while you're selling. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, when we talk about reasons for selling a house versus holding on to it, I'm curious, what are some of the advantages of selling a house and getting into a new one from a financial perspective, from your point of view?
Well, right now it's very, I would say it's not a financial thing to do it right now. Well, let me back up a second. Right now, I would tell everybody, do not sell any real estate. Keep as much real estate as you can over the next 20 years. And the reason is we have 50 million millennials coming to the market in the next few years to buy homes. We're so far behind on inventory. So you're going to have appreciation that's going to continue to go on if you keep owning that real estate. You shouldn't sell it. You should keep it for your future, for your kids, for other people. But if you're thinking about selling your house and moving up to a bigger house, the biggest issue you're going to have today is, when did you refinance your house in 21 and 22 and you have a really low interest rate? Well, today's rates are in the sixes, so it's almost double what interest rates were when you have what's on your house. So your payment's going to go up drastically. So you have to really look at the numbers. So for most people, what they do is they keep the house, rent it out, and that offsets the difference in their payment when they move up. Are you following me there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm curious to also ask you, what do you think the average American has been priced out of buying a house, you know, with inflation and everything going up these days? I'm curious your message to the average American who wants to get into the home buying process, but is afraid that they might get priced out of the market. What are your thoughts there?
If they don't get into the market, they're going to be priced out. Period. They just because the way the values of the homes are going, you if you rent, you don't get any appreciation while you're renting. But if you own a home, it's an investment in your future. And right now we're back to where it used to be. What I mean by that is during 21 and 22, people were going, I'm going to buy a house because it's cheaper than renting. And then it became, I'm going to buy a house because it's the same as renting. Now it's about $500 to $1,000 difference a month in your payment, which is how it always have been over time. Is it's always more expensive to buy a house today and with your payment, but that's an investment in your future where the other one you're just throwing the money away. So what do I tell people? Look at getting into different industries to make more money. What I mean by that, trade industries right now are so short on people. They're paying ridiculous amount of money for you to learn to get into trades. They're helping you get into it where they have not been able to do it any other time in history. Women, they're pushing to get into trades because Texas, Florida, California all need a lot of people for trades, and we're all short. So you want to change what you're doing. If you don't have an industry that you're in that you study for and that's making good money, maybe get into a different industry and get a better job. Get in medical care, get into a bunch of other things that pay more so that you can afford the home. Don't stay at the job you have and think I can't afford this. What changes do you need to make so you can get that house?
And building on that, the choices that we make as younger people have an effect on our ability to buy, purchase, or sell real estate as we get older. So it's also important to have a good financial plan when you're younger, isn't it?
Yes, it's very much so. And one of the issues we run into today is the fact that most people aren't financial literate when it comes to what you should do with real estate. So you need to find somebody that you can talk to and who can explain that to you. Read books on it. There's a lot of good books out there besides mine. There's a lot of good books out there that talks about real estate and how to buy it and what you should do with it. You need to get more educated on it because they don't teach us in high school. They don't teach us in college. This is not something you learn. This is something, unfortunately, we have to learn on our own or taught to us by our family. And when you own a home going forward, it changes the directory of that family to where now everybody thinks they should own a home. If you just rent, then everybody doesn't think about owning a home.
Well, when you rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, you're paying a mortgage anyway. It's just somebody else's.
That's exactly right. No, and I want to talk about your best-selling book, my friend, that you wrote, "Financial Freedom: Building Personal Wealth Through Homeownership," my friend, which I know talks about providing practical advice and insights through this entire process. So tell me about the book and why you decided to write it, my friend.
So when I'm a little different than every other loan person out there, and I have a master's degree, I have a bachelor's and master's, I'm a vet, and when I look at things differently than other people, and I found out there's only one of me. I can teach my staff, I can teach more loan officers, but I can't help the amount of people I want to help by myself. So how do you do it? You write a book on it. And so I wrote the book, and basically it breaks down the process of how we look at the process of buying a home through the loan side of it. So the first chapter is about credit. We talk about your credit, how to get it up if it's not in the right place, because you can't move forward until that's fixed. Then we look at your assets. And we look at your income. And if your income's not there, let's get you a better job. Let's do this, go back to school, whatever you need to do to get a better job. And then next thing we look at is assets. Assets are easy to get to buy the house. That's your down payment. You can always get gifted. There's many different ways. So I break it down the way that I actually qualify somebody that came into my office, and it explains the process. And I break down all the disclosures, everything you're going to run across coming there, even buying the house. It's in the book, so it makes it easier for you to read. And a lot of people have read the book have said it makes it so much easier that they're now thinking about buying a house. And that was the whole purpose of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No. And I don't know how much you did your research on me, my friend, but I was born with cerebral palsy. And outside of hosting this podcast, I advocate for folks with disabilities in terms of helping them get higher paying jobs and just more inclusion in the workforce. So when it comes to housing, and I'm curious, what work do you still think needs to be done to uh, provide better access for home ownership for individuals with disabilities?
Well, so I'm a vet, and we deal with a lot of veterans who have, from war, injuries from war, who are disabled, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done for them because houses, accessibility to houses with the different types of needs that they need, it should be looked into. One of our biggest problems, we don't even have enough homes for regular people, let alone working with the vets and everybody else and people like yourself who have these disabilities to help them get into homes. Our government needs to get more involved. What I mean is, this is, just bear with me here. I don't think they should be giving money to help you buy a house. What they should be doing is helping builders build homes more inexpensive, so that, and take, because for the average cost for a lot and to do permits is about $125,000 to $150,000. So if you can get rid of those costs, and then that would make the house affordability much less. It'd be a $300,000 house versus a $450,000 or $500,000 house that they could build. So that would mean more access for people to get into homes, and in these same homes, they can do the accessibility options that need to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ed, I know that you're the host of your own podcast where you dive into some of these issues and help other people achieve their financial goals, my friend. So tell me about your podcast and what it's all about, my friend.
All right. So I have a radio show called Real Estate Jerky. We give you something to chew on. I've been doing that radio show since 2018. As I was doing the radio show, I was like, I need to hit more areas with this information. So that was my first podcast. I turned that into a podcast, and it's still called Real Estate Jerky. And then, well, I also do two other podcasts, which one is called Inner Edison, which is your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest defeats. And we talk to business owners and their failures, so that people understand, if you're going to be in business, you're going to have failures, you're going to have things, how to work through it. My other podcast is Helping the Brave, which is for us veterans once we take the uniform off and transitioning. And we talk about all the different stuff with PTSD, everything that comes across, we talk about it on those podcasts. And then I also just started a recent one that is a sales podcast called Aces 53, because when I was in college, one of my instructors says, remember 4 aces and a joker, which has to do with sales. Aces stand for attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile that you bring to the table in sales. And the joker is that unique ability that you have. My unique ability, because I sold by the phone, which I didn't realize until I put headphones on, that I had a deep voice. So
you do certainly have a deep voice, so you've got to use all your assets to your advantage.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I want to go back to the importance of credit just for a moment, because,
Okay.
I don't think enough people know the importance of building credit and how important that is to the mortgage process, isn't it? And life, isn't it, as well? Well, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's very important. People need to understand how credit is looked at. A lot of people think, oh, I don't want to have a credit card because I don't want to give it that day, have that problem. So I get a car loan, pay it off, those kind of things. That doesn't build the credit as much as a credit card will build credit. And it's all about history, how long you've had the item, and credit cards is how you utilize the item. Are you over 10% of your limit? That means if you have $1,000 limit, are you over $100 on it? The more that you're over 10%, the more negative credit you get from having that credit card. So if you have a bunch of credit cards and they're maxed out, you have a lower FICO score because it's the usage of how you use that credit card. Now, if you stay under 30% or 50%, you're going to have a better FICO score because they see that you know how to utilize credit and that you don't overuse it. So, but credit is so important. And when I say history is the most important. So if you've had a credit card for 20 years, you decide to cancel it because you really don't need it anymore, your FICO score is probably going to drop 100 points because of that. So understand that when you have credit, when it comes to credit cards, you want to keep them. You want to use them a little bit. So you can't just get them and put them on a shelf. You have to utilize them, meaning that put gas on one of them for 1 month, put gas on another one the next month, put gas on a couple of them. You have to utilize them. If you don't utilize them, you lose the credit from that card also. And there's a lot to this, but really just pay on time. I don't care if it's a $15 or $5. If you have a one late payment, $5, $15, it's going to affect your FICO score by 80 points.
Yeah, and it'll also teach your financial discipline, won't it?
Of course, yeah. And it's a great way. And that's why we've all learned a lot over the last 20 years compared to 2006. That's why most people have a higher FICO score. But there are things that happen. Don't freak out if you lost your job and you had to not miss payments on your credit card. And here's I'm gonna add one more thing. If you have a house and you lose your job, keep making the house payment. If you can't make the credit card payments, that's okay. Just let it. And then once you get caught up again, over time, because you didn't mess with the mortgage, you could always do something. So always keep your mortgage current as much as possible. And call, if you can't for some reason, call your lender. They will work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, my friend, that you were a part of a featured 9 part documentary, my friend. So tell me about the documentary, the experience, and what you got out of it.
Well, I never thought I'd be in a documentary, and it was approached to me to be in this one because of my radio show and the fact that I'm in the mortgage industry. And the documentary was set up originally to, and it still is, to talk to people of how they built their real estate, how they bought real estate and made money from it. And that's what the whole show was about. They had me on there talking about what I thought about the bubble, everything that had to come with a mortgage. And it was a great experience because one, I don't know many people who can say they're in a documentary, and I get to, and it was a great time. It was, you got to the whole part. I spoke for 2 hours, and they kept an hour and a half of it for the show. So,
well, that's the best form of marketing you could ever get, right?
That's correct.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you about the idea of you being a mentor, my friend, because as you said, you mentor veterans, and that's important to you from a real estate investment standpoint and a real estate standpoint in particular. So tell me why it's so important for you to be a real estate mentor to veterans specifically.
Well, to help veterans, it's because as a veteran, you signed on the line to protect this country. We gave for this country, and we give a lot for this country. And we are one of those people who, because of that, we're able to get a VA loan or do certain things. I want to make sure that you're taken care of. It's important for me to take care of people like myself who serve this country, because of them, we have the freedoms and the rights that we have today because of the fact that we've had people who have given their all for this country, and that's why I'm here to support them and their families.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about the role of social responsibility in terms of real estate and helping tackle the homelessness problem. And what role, from a social responsibility standpoint, do you think real estate investors should take in their approach when they acquire a new real estate? I'm curious to get your thoughts there.
Well, I might take this a little differently. So for me, social responsibility is a little different. When it comes to homelessness, I'm in California. All right. The governor in 2003 said in 10 years, we're going to get a handle on homelessness. They spent $20 billion, some ridiculous amount of money, and we have more homeless people in California than we've ever had. I think in order to help a lot of the homeless people in California, they need to want to get help. And a lot of the 90% of the homeless people in California don't want help. They want to stay homeless. They like what they do. So the 10%, I'm there for helping them, especially helping vets. There's a lot of homeless vets. It's because of PTSD. They're outside because of their PTSD. They enjoy it. They don't want to get it. So until they can get help with their PTSD, they don't want to get off the streets. To answer your question, I don't know how to answer it properly, but my statement is I don't know if it's really the real estate investors who need to get involved. I think the families need to get more involved with their people, and also we're in Stanislaus County. We're called St. Stanislaus. We give so much to the homeless population that we increase our homeless population because of how much we give. So no one has actually figured out how to fix this. Yes, we do a lot of little tiny homes for people to go through and transition out. We also have a transition center, but we're still getting more homeless people than we're getting off the streets. So I don't know the answer to this.
Well, yeah, it's a continuing conversation with a lot of layers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's we need to figure some way to help. I just don't know the answer to your question because we still are looking at it. We have so many of them in California and we don't know how to fix that problem.
Yeah, and Ed, I see the two football helmets behind you, my friend. As an old sports reporter, I'm curious, what did you think about this launch of the NFL playoffs, my friend?
Not very much because my Broncos aren't in it.
Fair enough. So let
I
me.
mean, my other helmet is San Francisco. That's signed by Jerry Rice. So I have two teams. Really, Broncos are my favorite, but because I'm close to the Bay Area, 49ers is my second team. So.
Well, I have to tell you, Ed, I'm a long-suffering Detroit Lions fan, and they're having their first ever playoff game at Ford Field, and Ford Field's been open since 2002, so I've been waiting a while. Okay.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do really well. So.
Well, I hope so. You know, it's an emotional investment when you're a football fan, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, that's like us. We haven't had a good quarterback since Elway. I mean, Elway was our best, and then we had Manning. The problem with the Broncos is the people who've owned it, they traded all the good second string guys who now are the first string quarterbacks at many teams. So.
That's also true. So, what do we think is going to happen with Russell Wilson? Do you think he's coming back, or do you think he's had his last snap as a Bronco, my friend?
I don't know. I keep hearing two different things, and we don't. And the problem has been, did we do the right thing? We gave away our second string to get Russell Wilson, who is now playing for the Seahawks.
Yeah, he's their primary backup. Yeah,
right, and he's amazing. That's the problem. I think we finally have the right coach. So let's see where they go for the next year, and then we'll see where it's at.
Well, I hope so. They paid Sean Payton a lot of money. So
yeah, I mean, I like Shanahan. He was good. So.
You can go back to the glory days when you pop in the old films, huh?
No, I just don't. I just watch soccer.
Well, as a Broncos fan, I would advise that. But you know, Ed, I'm curious. What do you think the home mortgage and home industry is going within the next 5 to 10 years in terms of making progress towards prosperity? What do you think they've made the most inroads, and what do you think still needs to happen to exhibit some progress in that area?
Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to build more homes. All right. A lot of people think we're building homes. We're not. We average 1.9 million new households a year. That includes rentals, everything, right? That's people forming families, 1.9 million. We've only been creating about between 1.1 to 1.2 houses for sale and rentals and all that and multifamily over the last so many years. We're about 3 million short nationwide on houses. We're 3 million short in California. We're about 18 million short nationwide on houses that we need to build. So until we build more houses, the problem we're gonna have is the shortage of supply, which means the values are going to continue to go up at ridiculous rates. What I mean by that is more than 4 or 5% a year. We're going to be 10 to 15 to 20% a year going forward. We just need to build more homes, make it a fastest process. And they are starting to do that by building them in factories. I'm not talking mobile homes that people are used to. I'm talking actual real homes in factories, 3 shifts a day, they can put out a house in 6 weeks. And that's how we're going to do it going forward, printing them and building them in factories. That will make it easier and cheaper for people to own homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Ed, in the few minutes I have left with you, my friend, I'm also curious to ask you whether you think aspirations and expectations are interconnected. How do you think people need to challenge themselves from a societal perspective to reach their aspirations so they can set their own level of expectations?
I'd say do everything that makes you uncomfortable.
because
That's how
then
you grow. That's how you get better. That's how you do more. You want to do everything that makes you uncomfortable. Like, maybe going to get a different job. You're comfortable with your current job, but go get a different job. Go try speaking in public. Go get on the radio. Go do podcasts. Do whatever makes you uncomfortable. I'm sure you starting this show was not something that you really, was not easy, but it was something you did and you're good at it. So you don't know what you're good at until you put yourself out there. And right now, I think the biggest problem with for some of our, and I have 5 kids, is people aren't used to putting themselves out there anymore. They're afraid to. They're afraid of other stuff. So put yourself out there. Do everything that makes you uncomfortable.
well, and I have to tell you, my philosophy on that is if you don't put yourself out there, people don't know where to find you, right? So
Correct. Correct.
absolutely. And so, Ed, just before we get out of here, my friend, I want to share with you that I, my friend, am actually on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity
Mhm.
in my local town. And one of the things that we started to do as an affiliate here in. So I live in Canada. So I live in Windsor, which is the city right across the river from Detroit. So what we've started to do is partner with home builders to build houses to make sure that we're maximizing the number of people we can serve on a faster scale. So I'm curious, when you look at charities like Habitat for Humanity or other social housing charities, I'm wondering where you think that they fall in helping to solve the homelessness problem, and what would be your message to the importance to sort of supporting those organizations as well?
I think they do a good job. We have them in our town. We all help out for them and do things for them. But again, there's just how they get their properties. There's just not enough properties,
Mm-hmm.
right, to help enough people. So it's great what they're doing. They're helping. It would be nicer if there was ways to get more property so that they could do more for more people. And that's one of the issues we have in California and nationwide. You're in Canada, in Midwest, it might not be the same way. And I know on each coast, it's a little different for us, but Habitat gets their properties, they set them up, they help people, with the equity and everything else they do. It's an amazing program. They just need more properties. They had more properties during the downturn because people were losing their homes than they do now. And I don't know how to get them more homes to help more
Yeah,
people.
yeah. One of the issues that we're having uh, for my affiliate here in Canada, Ed, is the lack of affordable land to build
Mhm.
houses on. So that's one of the reasons why partnering with home builders has been something that they've started to do because they have access to the land and they can build them faster, which means that more people can get into homes faster as well. So.
But you also should look maybe at people who own property who are aging out and they don't have anybody to donate, give the property to and other stuff and see if there's ways that you can get that donated to you guys.
Yeah, and they've also started repair programs to help
Mhm. Mhm.
seniors stay in their homes, and they can make money that way. Also to build houses too, so it's a win-win
Yeah.
for sure. But and my final question for you this afternoon has to do with your own personal and professional legacy, my friend, and how you want your legacy to be defined.
I want to be fine by educating people on how important it is to own a home. Like I said, I keep telling people it changes the family dynamics when you own a home. It's the best. It's how you change everything because that way going forward, once the first person buys a home, they're going forward. Every child, everybody thinks that they should be owning a home also, and that's so important. It changes the dynamics of the family.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ed, finally, tell me if people want to get connected with you, my friend, what's the best way they can do that?
I'm Ed Parcaut everywhere. That's Ed Parcaut, and that's .com. That's on Instagram. That's on Facebook, LinkedIn. You name it. YouTube. I'm Ed Parcaut everywhere. It's easy to find me. Just type. And if you want to find my book, the easiest way to find my book is to go to getedsbook.com. That's getedsbook.com. The reason I did that is because people don't know how to spell my last name and they spell it wrong all the time. That'll take you right to my website. You can click on the link and it'll take you right to Amazon.
Fantastic. Well, Ed, as someone who believes in the prosperity of home ownership, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I really commend you for the good work that you do to help people realize the promise of home ownership. My friend, your work in the space and time on my behalf this afternoon is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, sir.